This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Hello and welcome to the Sunday Lunch Show on Teachers Talk Radio with Graham Stanley. Today I'll be looking at how AI can be used to help inclusive learning and teacher training and education with my guest Zafar Siddiq.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Sunday Lunch Show, everyone. As I mentioned, I'll be exploring how artificial intelligence can be used for inclusive learning and also teacher education with my special guest, Zafar Siddiq, who is joining me from Pakistan. Zafar Siddiq is a TESOL certified English language instructor, early childhood education specialist and teacher trainer with over 13 years of experience. His focus is on creating learner-centered lessons, on teacher training, and using EdTech and AI in education. Currently, Zafar is pursuing his PhD and working on educational research. Zafar has also worked with the British Council as a teacher educator for the PEELI, that is Punjab Education and English Language Initiative project, and with the Punjab Examination Commission for over 8 years as a content developer and assessment reviewer. He's also contributed to curriculum development and teacher training in Punjab's school education department. Zafar is passionate about digital and blended learning, especially in the areas of special education leadership. When he's not working, he enjoys playing cricket and table tennis. And I will be talking to Zafar after the Teachers Talk Radio news.
Need a smarter way to teach? Wish your lessons had more impact? Eduflix.com. Stream educational films for teachers and students in or out of the classroom. Keep students engaged. No ads. No distractions. Try it free for 30 days at eduflix.com/try. Use code TTR. Get 50% off all orders made before June 1st. Eduflix.com.
Hi secondary school teachers, we're Apps for Good, and we give schools like yours free introductory computing courses. Our courses are for everyone, including those who aren't computing teachers, and they're fully equipped with resources mapped to the UK computing curriculums. Independent learning is central to our courses. Your students will develop essential and digital skills by working in teams to create prototype apps. We'll even connect you with industry volunteers to give real-world feedback. Let's empower every young person you teach to shape their future with technology. Speak to us at www.appsforgood.org.
Did you know that every year, half of disadvantaged children who are top attainers at primary school don't go on to achieve top GCSE maths results? At Axiom Maths, we exist to change that. Our fully funded program helps schools nurture young mathematicians through weekly face-to-face maths circles, where pupils tackle challenging and exciting problems outside the national curriculum. With just under £3,000 annual funding, expert training and quality resources, we give schools everything they need to inspire the next generation of mathematical thinkers. Want to make a difference? Visit AxiomMaths.com today and join over 400 schools delivering maths circles across the UK.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
So-called stuck schools will be held accountable even if support brokered for them by the government RISE teams fails to turn them around, according to a report in Schools Week. Speaking at the Schools and Academies show, Department for Education Director General John Edwards said, "The current responsible body, the Schools Trust or Council, is accountable for the improvement. It owns the improvement journey." He went on to say that this starting principle had been really important for Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson. Earlier this month, 45 new advisors were appointed to join the 20 already appointed in RISE teams. The expanded team will start working with more than 200 schools deemed stuck for receiving a requires improvement Ofsted grade following an earlier below good judgment. When the government initially unveiled plans for the RISE teams, there was confusion around accountability. But slides shown during the presentation by Mr. Edwards indicate that once a school becomes eligible for support, the RISE teams will assess its capacity to improve. Where a school needs help, it will be matched with a high-quality organisation and considered for funded intervention. An improvement plan would then be co-constructed. Edwards went on to say, "The RISE advisor's job is not to deliver the improvement." The BBC Education section of their news website reports that private school fees were 22.6% higher on average in January this year when compared with a year earlier. This is according to the body that represents most independent schools in the UK, the Independent Schools Council. It says it expects a reduction in pupils applying to private schools as a result of changes to VAT. But it says it is too soon to know the full effects of the policy. The average termly fee for a day school in January was £7,382, which includes 20% VAT. In January 2024, the average was £6,021. A Treasury spokesperson says the increase in fees are not only down to VAT, and that fees have been rising in private schools over the last 25 years. The ISC said many schools were able to reduce their fees, excluding VAT, in January to cushion the impact on parents. But ISC Chief Executive Julie Robinson said the sector had been hit by a triple whammy of national insurance changes, an end to charitable business rates relief, and 20% VAT on fees. Full details of the report can be found online. SEND is also in the news from Schools Week as it covers further updates from the Schools and Academies show. This time the report says officials are considering a shake-up of the Education Health and Care Plan system that would likely lead to a narrowing or new structure of support. Speaking to Schools Week, Dame Christine Lenihan added that discussions were ongoing about whether EHCPs should only apply to special school pupils. The number of EHCPs has increased rapidly in recent years, from 294,758 in 2020 to 434,354 in 2024. And schools and other services have struggled to keep up with demand. In March, a Schools Week investigation exposed the poor quality of many plans. The government is drawing up reforms to the wider SEND sector, with speculation the whole system of EHCPs could be scrapped. Dame Christine, the government's strategic advisor on SEND, responded to questions about the EHCP system by saying, "It's not fit for purpose." And when asked if she envisaged there being fewer EHCPs, she said, "I think probably so." She went on to say, "I see the huge amount of money we put on statutory assessment, and then I look at the translation into schools and it is not working." Further comment and reaction can be found on Schools Week online. Finally, BBC Tees reports on the success of a cafe in Hartlepool that has been giving young people who struggle with school a different way of learning vital life skills. The cafe opened in November 2024 and is set up for takeaway orders. There is a chef and a number of students who learn food hygiene, health and safety, customer service and how to cook. Children are referred by their schools and English and maths are also studied. Young people attending the provision say, "I've grown and developed a lot. It's changed me completely." Whilst the cafe's co-director says, there is a no negativity rule and praise is very important. Full details of the positive impact of this alternative provision can be found on BBC Tees website. This has been Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I am happy to say I'm with Zafar Siddiq. Zafar, how are you today?
Thank you, Graham. I'm really fine. I'm really good. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for joining me, Zafar. Could you tell everybody where you are and what you do?
I'm from Pakistan and professionally I'm teaching at a public school here. And in fact, I am an ESL teacher. I'm teaching English language and it's been over 12 years now.
And Zafar, did you always want to be a teacher, or is it something that you found yourself doing by accident or not by plan?
That's an amazing question, Graham. In fact, my father, he's been a teacher, and I saw him, in that role, and I really idealized him because besides being just a father, he always mentored me, and he himself proved what a real teacher can be. So yes, I saw the inspiration in him. That's why I opted to be a teacher, in fact, right from my childhood.
Right, wonderful. And what did your father teach? Was he a primary teacher, secondary school teacher? What did he teach?
Initially, he was an elementary level teacher. He used to teach Arabic language, and besides that, sometimes he would teach Islamic studies and Urdu sometimes, because a general teacher here is supposed to take up all these subjects. So yes, he would teach all these subjects.
Right. And what about you? Did you find it natural to gravitate towards teaching English, or did you consider teaching other things first?
Again, it's an amazing one. When I was, at my matric level, I had a couple of teachers who really encouraged me for my, although it was raw, but somehow emerging language skills. So they encouraged me, and that's when I found the inspiration to be a teacher, because, here in Pakistan, it's not of a native language, and these the teachers here, the students, they usually have to struggle because there are so many barriers in this, speaking, listening, reading, and writing. So whoever does a kind of significant effort in it somehow finds the position, finds the place. So that's where I've started finding some kind of identity. My teachers, they encouraged me, they appreciated me. So that's why I found that yes, I should step up and move on and find my career in this. And
do you enjoy teaching at a school? Do you teach, what age groups do you teach?
Mainly I teach grade 9 and 10, but sometimes, before joining my current school, I was the headmaster there at an elementary school. So there I used to teach sometimes some elementary level classes and primary level classes. And I've always found myself to be a teacher. In fact, I won't sugarcoat it, but yes, that's the fact. That's reality. And I always find it something encouraging, satisfying. So yes, I love doing it.
Great. And are the students generally motivated, or do you find it difficult to get them to want to speak English or want to learn English?
Well, it depends. In fact, sometimes when the students when they find some really good teacher, someone who motivates them, they are motivated and they do try to do their best. But sometimes, in fact, some teachers, when they don't modify or change their teaching style, or when they don't make it compatible with their learners, so there it is a bit hard for the learners to enjoy or stay motivated for long. So yes, there are some problems then.
Right. So one of the things we're going to be talking about today is teacher training and development, particularly for early years and language teachers.
Yeah.
Zafar, could you tell me when you became interested and involved in teacher training and development?
Well, to be honest, I didn't step into teacher training by design. It was more necessity than ambition, I would say. I saw teachers, particularly in underserved areas, doing the best they could with very little, no real CPD, limited resources, and absolutely no digital tools. So that's when I felt like something had to change. So I started small. I started doing small things like peer learning circles, workshops during school holidays. So, but now today I work with a blend of in-person and digital models, reaching both urban and remote educators across Pakistan. So yes, now things are different, but I'm really loving it.
Fantastic. And what do you think is crucial in your context as far as teacher development is concerned? What kind of things do teachers really need help with?
If I talk about the real need of the training context, I would say the teaching practices, which we have, the professional practices on the CPD framework, each of that practice, those practices, it relates in our context, because if you talk about knowing the subject and understanding context and understanding learners, I feel it's everywhere, in every aspect, where the teachers need to improve, because I believe it's the right time when we found this model, and we really need to stick to this model because it provides everything in it. And I would say there's no teaching practice where we can confidently say that the teachers are perfectly all right and they don't need any intervention, any training.
Right. And teacher development in Pakistan, is it something that is encouraged on a general level? I know you talked about starting off in holidays, or is it something that teachers are generally expected just to do in their own free time?
It is encouraged. The teachers seem to be quite interested in the professional development. Sometimes, they do feel like, how could I improve myself? Yes, there is a huge tendency. There's a huge shift now, because the teachers, they do feel that they need to be good teachers. They need to be more successful in the profession. So that's why they sometimes in contact those who are somewhere teaching or working in this role, like being teacher trainers. So they do contact such persons or such professionals, and they try to seek the relevant guidelines.
Right. And how often do you think teachers get to do professional development? Is it on a monthly basis? Is it less?
Well, honestly, it's not so frequent. I would say it's seasonal, because the government, because of some political upheavals here, we don't have any consistent pattern for professional development.
Mm-hmm.
Back in 2017 and for the next couple of years, we had very strong program which was in collaboration with the British Council. It was named PEELI, P-E-E-L-I, Punjab English and Punjab Education English Language Initiative. So that was really an amazing program where the primary teachers had a wonderful opportunity to learn and improve different, teaching practices. But now, after that, we don't have a consistent, or you can say, a kind of structured and organized pattern where the teachers can get training. There are a couple of days that are dedicated for professional training, but unfortunately, there's nothing solid that I can refer to.
Right. And if you, as a teacher trainer, were approaching developing a group of teachers, how would you start? Where would you start to kind of understand what they need and how to go about structuring a course, for example?
Generally, we would follow a kind of, as we have SEN, students, SNE, or students need analysis, SNA sometimes. We would carry out kind of analysis, like sometimes it's not, very flexible to allow them or even ask from them what they need. We always have a kind of structured training program, having training manuals, but sometimes, yes, we do get feedback from them. For example, occasionally during the session, sometimes after the session, we do ask them how, where you feel yourself to be, needing any improvement. So they would discuss points like classroom management and, instructions, sometimes lesson planning. And that is the most, you can say, the area where they need improvement. Perhaps everyone needs some solid training on that. Lesson planning is something where most of them, they would ask about.
Yeah, I think it's true, isn't it? Like, any teacher can improve when it comes to classroom management. There's always so much to learn and so much to take into account in the classroom. It changes so much, doesn't it, depending on the learners, the context, how many learners you have, the age group, the levels, all sorts of things to take into account.
That's true.
Yeah. So do you find, apart from classroom management and lesson planning, do you find other aspects of teaching much in demand?
There's so many other barriers. The first and the foremost thing that, the teachers have to grapple with or struggle with is the language barrier. Language itself is a huge barrier. And, when it comes to classroom teaching, a good teacher has to be fluent. A good teacher has to be somehow, fluent enough to give sufficient intake and sufficient input to the students. But unfortunately, that's the primary thing, and that makes them quite demotivated. I would say they're demotivated because of this barrier. So language, and then adapting your teaching materials to the students' need, and deciding the right tools. For example, AI and technology. That is a question where even a large number, I'm afraid, a large number of teachers, they don't even think about this. And this is something where I think some huge steps need to be taken.
Right. It's fair to say then, I suppose, that there's not a lot of technology in classrooms and schools in your country at the moment. Is that right? Is there a lot of variation depending on the area, the school, etc.?
Well, in private schools, they do practice technology. They do have it, and even in some of the urban area schools, the public schools, some teachers, especially those who are fresh graduates from the universities and those who are closely connected with IT, they do practice that. But those who come from the backgrounds, non-computer, non-technology backgrounds, they tend to be avoiding, this kind of stuff. And they also need, training how to use technology, how to use different gadgets and tools and apps and websites. So a large number of such teachers are not even familiar with these concepts. But now the young generation, they are familiar, and they are trying to learn even the use of AI and using these tools and modern technology in the classroom.
What's your experience of generative artificial intelligence, Gen AI, when it comes to using it for education or using it for language teaching and learning? Have you started exploring that area yourself?
Yes, I did. And I believe perhaps it's a kind of rebirth of my teaching career, because the day I realized that AI can revolutionize my teaching strategies and teaching skills, I found out that this is something I should have done years before. But even now, I believe it has equipped me with the required skills, and I use particularly I'm using ChatGPT. I did use Gemini as well, sometimes for text analysis and things like that. But I personally find ChatGPT more convenient for me in my context, and I use it more frequently because I have using the premium version. It does give you those features which you need sometimes. So I use ChatGPT for lesson planning, for generating comprehension text for which are compatible with my learners' age and their so it depends on the prompts. So I do try to give very comprehensive kinds of prompts where I give age groups and the cognitive level and other necessary things. So yes, it does support me a lot.
So when you're approaching using ChatGPT or any other large language model to produce something for class, am I right in thinking that it would be to try and produce text or something, or a quiz or something like that? Yeah. And
yes, you're right. And it's not only about text. There are so many other tools, as you know. You've been working on that. I saw your research profile. So the other models like Quizlet and Quizzes and Moodle and things like that, we can generate lots of quizzes and matching stuff. So that's really very helpful. And the teachers around me, among my staff members, there's so many who love all that stuff. And I, if you allow me, I would like to share something really interesting. When before joining this public school, I worked at a private school, or kind of semi-government, a sort of autonomous school. It is Danish public school or Danish schools. There, it was the first time I started using technology for teaching. It was there at that school, and I used to generate quizzes, and we had a kind of technology, COW, computer on wheels technology. So I had a completely organized portfolio for the students. For every student we had portfolios, and that was quite structured and organized. And later on, once I switched my school, that school collected all that content, and there was a kind of nomination for using technology for education. So that school won the competition because of that work. So although it was quite disorganized, it was not very much structured stuff, but still it was appreciated. And so I believe there's huge potential in technology, and with the help of this, we can bring a significant change in the way we teach.
Right. That's interesting. And at the school, you had access to devices and internet, and also accounts with the Gen AI software for teachers, was it? Or would they be available for students to use as well?
It's not actually available. It's neither for students nor for the teachers. I manage it myself. I do subscribe such things whenever I find it appropriate. For example, 2 years ago, when I was working in a middle school, I was using a digital box, which we say the Android box. So we had different apps in that. So you have to manage it yourself. The government, they do think about that, but they need time to introduce such things at a large level.
And a lot of teachers in a lot of places are concerned about students using Gen AI to cheat, to answer assignments and questions that teachers set them using these tools. Is that of concern in your context as well?
Of course it is. It is a huge concern because, whenever we switch to this and when we allow the students to use ChatGPT or any other model like that, there is a big concern that they might be misusing that or cheating. And of course, it does happen. And but there are ways. In fact, in our own context, I personally have devised certain ways where I can mitigate that. You can say that tendency. For example, sometimes part of the assignments which I assign them or the task that I give them, they have the margin of using ChatGPT, but sometimes some of the tasks are designed in a way that even if they use that, there's a certain part of that task that requires generally their own contribution. So it's easy for me to detect whether they've been using ChatGPT or not. So, but I still need to find out more ways, or more reliable ways to minimize that. You can say that use of ChatGPT in that way.
So, what are the signs? What makes it easy for you to kind of detect if a student has used ChatGPT or other large language model?
As I said earlier, unfortunately, a large number of students they're not well versed with English language itself. So whenever they use ChatGPT, sometimes the language itself is self-explanatory. We can easily detect even the punctuation marks, especially hyphens and long dashes and things like that. We can easily detect that this is something which we can't expect from the students of this level. So it's not really very hard to detect that.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? Especially when you're teaching English language, if you have a student who hardly can string together a sentence or has difficulty in communicating in the classroom, and then they come out with something very sophisticated in writing, then it's obvious, isn't it? And what about trying to discourage students to use these to think for themselves, to answer assignments or questions? Do you have any strategies for that, to encourage students to actually work for themselves and to produce their own original work rather than going to these tools?
Yes, of course. That's really an amazing question. In fact, whenever I find any student coming up with his own genuine work, I sometimes place it or display it on the boards and walls, and we do present it as a kind of model for the other students. And sometimes we ask other students to read that and find out where that student has done something really special. and sometimes to analyze that content and compare that with that of the other students. So this is how that student feels encouraged sometimes, and it does motivate others as well to do something genuine.
And in a lot of contexts, schools, classrooms, individual teachers, they are trying to ban these tools to stop students from using them because they don't think they're useful for learning, etc. But then in other contexts, there are teachers in schools that are trying to encourage students to use them, but use these tools in a critical way to be able to use them, because they think that now these tools are very much going to be part of, they are part of the real world. They're tools which people during in their jobs they use. We're going to see more of that. Where do you stand on that? Do you think these tools shouldn't be part of school, or do you think that it's a duty for teachers to actually encourage students to use them, but in a critical kind of supported way?
Well, I believe exclusively banning use of ChatGPT or other AI tools, I think this is something really not really good, I believe, because instead of restricting your students from using these things, I rather believe that we need to design certain courses for the early graders, how to use these things responsibly, and we need to even educate them, because giving them confidence and building trust, that is something that we need. And without AI, I don't think it would be a reasonable idea to completely ban ChatGPT or other AI tools, because without that, I don't think we can really cope with how the world is going or moving forward.
Need a smarter way to teach? Wish your lessons had more impact? Eduflix.com. Stream educational films for teachers and students in or out of the classroom. Keep students engaged. No ads, no distractions. Try it free for 30 days at eduflix.com/try. Use code TTR. Get 50% off all orders made before June 1st. Eduflix.com.
Hi secondary school teachers, we're Apps for Good, and we give schools like yours free introductory computing courses. Our courses are for everyone, including those who aren't computing teachers, and they're fully equipped with resources mapped to the UK computing curriculums. Independent learning is central to our courses. Your students will develop essential and digital skills by working in teams to create prototype apps. We'll even connect you with industry volunteers to give real-world feedback. Let's empower every young person you teach to shape their future with technology. Speak to us at www.appsforgood.org.
Did you know that every year, half of disadvantaged children who are top attainers at primary school don't go on to achieve top GCSE maths results? At Axiom Maths, we exist to change that. Our fully funded program helps schools nurture young mathematicians through weekly face-to-face maths circles, where pupils tackle challenging and exciting problems outside the national curriculum. With just under £3,000 annual funding, expert training and quality resources, we give schools everything they need to inspire the next generation of mathematical thinkers. Want to make a difference? Visit AxiomMaths.com today and join over 400 schools delivering math circles across the UK.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order.
And have you heard much about how people are using these tools for work, for their daily lives over there? Do you hear much about that?
Yes, of course. There are different ways how people are using that. A couple of days ago, I was listening to a program about Toddle. I think it was on your radio, I believe. That's how different people are using these tools in different ways, and it's not only in education; it's in health sector, it's in other fields. So yes, there's a huge you can say utilization of these tools and these resources. So we can't really think of doing away with all that stuff. So we will have to develop ways or find out ways how to use them responsibly, and how to make the best use of these things in order to bring the real change in every field wherever we want to use them.
And I know that you are particularly interested in the idea of using AI to support inclusive learning.
Yeah.
Could you talk us through how you can do that?
Well, sometimes we find in our classes that some students with certain, you can say, disabilities, some students from different communities, some students from different, you can say, segments of the society, they can't really you can say participate sufficiently in the classroom activities. So these tools and these gadgets and you can say the use of IT and technology, it does allow those students to participate, because the gamification element and other elements, they do have a potential to bring in even these students, those usually avoid participating in the class, and especially sometimes some of the tasks and some of the activities require students to perform extraordinarily, especially when you don't use IT and technology. So on the other side, if you bring in technology and AI and apps and software, this you can say makes your class more inclusive, and even if it allows the other students, those who usually do not take part in the class activities, they also come at forefront and they do participate in the classroom activities. So yes, it does ensure more inclusiveness in the class.
And have you ever experimented with, for example, differentiation using AI, in other words, producing things for different students within the classroom because they have different needs? Is that something you've tried?
Well, not much, but sometimes I did try it. For example, some of the students, they were really good at comprehension, so they needed a different kind of comprehension text, and some of the students, they needed quite easier ones, so I generated different kinds of text. And similarly, some of the students, they wanted to have some videos about a certain topic, so I provided them videos. So although we don't have blended learning in a very organized structure here, but as much as I know about these things, I do try them. I do assign different, I have WhatsApp groups and some other kinds of groups where I assign certain tasks, I generate certain activities, and I try to, send those activities and tasks in the group and ask the students to do some work on that. And I really find it quite effective, although I believe I need to learn more about that. But so far, I am trying new things. Everything that I learn, I do try it, and it is always effective. I've never been disappointed with my experiments.
Wonderful. And so you mentioned WhatsApp groups. Is that something you use a lot with students? Is that the way you communicate with groups of students or different classes outside of the classroom?
I have two different types of groups. Number one, WhatsApp, where I have the parents' contact numbers, especially, in Pakistan, large number of parents, they do not allow their children to have independent mobile phones and use them whenever they want. So it's monitored. So I send certain activities and you can say tasks in the group, and students do them. And I'm also using Khan Academy because I made the email addresses, and I enrolled them in particularly the grammar course, and I'm also using that, and assign certain, in Khan Academy, it has a certain feature where the students have to score and have to compete with one another. So these are different kinds of ways where I'm using these things, and different groups and different available platforms.
Right. That's interesting. So you have quite a lot of contact then with some parents through WhatsApp to support the learning of the students. Is that typical that the parents will become very involved in their children's learning in that way?
Well, majority of them, they do. They love getting involved in that, all that learning activity. Some of them, they would ask me about the child's performance and how they are doing, and sometimes they do give me some solid feedback, some really good feedback about their child, and it also makes me feel as if I'm doing something really good, because when they come up with some good feedback, it ensures somehow that yes, things are on the right track. But yes, there are some a fraction of the parents there, those who at the back foot, we feel that they need to be more supportive in that, and sometimes some of them, they still do not encourage sending all that stuff, because sometimes I have to send materials any time of the day. So sometimes, yes, there are concerns. I believe that we need to improve ways of communication and interaction between parents and the teachers. So we are working on that.
And do you find WhatsApp is a much better tool than trying to contact the parents in other ways via email, etc.?
Well, as far as the emails are concerned, that's not an easier way, because the parents, although I can't exactly say, but I believe more than 50% are not familiar with how to use even emails and how to check their inbox. So WhatsApp is quite easier, because sometimes even the children, they can help their parents find out the text and things like that. So I believe WhatsApp is much easier than emails and other tools. But yes, there are other tools, other softwares and apps, but we have to purchase them, and that's what is not really convenient for everyone.
Yeah, I guess most, if not all, of the parents have mobile phones now, and they if they have a mobile phone, I think WhatsApp is probably one of the most popular applications, isn't it, to communicate?
Yeah, that's true.
And what about online learning, online teaching? Have you had much, if any, experience of that?
Yes, online learning is something which I've been doing, and I really improved myself. I believe I did improve myself because of that. I've been doing courses from Coursera and from Moodle, from UNITA, some of the United Nations platforms, and particularly British Council's Teaching English.co.uk. I did more than 25 courses from there, and it has significantly changed my belief about myself, about my teaching. I believe that yes, there are ways how we can improve ourselves and our teaching styles and strategies. We can learn more about learners and the context and our teaching context, how to adapt our lesson planning, and how to learn more about modern technology. And yes, I've been doing all that, but I did teach online back I think about 4 or 5 years ago, but that was not about teaching English language or English grammar. It was about some other subjects. I've been doing some Quran teaching, because when I was in my university, I was doing my master's. I was doing that, so I did teach that, but it didn't involve those kind of barriers which we usually have in teaching English language and stuff like that. We did have some challenges, but they were more about using technology or handling your these hardware stuff and things like that.
Right. And you've mentioned WhatsApp, but we connected, we got to know each other through LinkedIn. And I see you're very active on LinkedIn. Is that something you enjoy doing? And what benefits do you think it gives you as a teacher, being connected in that way to so many people around the world on a platform such as LinkedIn?
Well, I would say it's the question of the day so far. It's a really good question. In fact, LinkedIn has completely changed my learning style. Out of my total webinars, I would say 100% of the webinars came through the posts that I saw on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a wonderful tool in our professional development, I believe, because you find out different ways, different resources and content and different links where you can improve yourself. And yes, LinkedIn did contribute a lot in my professional development. I'm trying to find out something new, particularly to contribute to my own learning on LinkedIn, and whatever I feel appropriate, I do try to post there as well as you. So thank you for encouraging me.
No, of course. And if there are teachers out there listening who think, I would like to use LinkedIn more and to be more active, etc., what would you recommend they do? How do they get started in connecting with people and getting attention, and what kind of things do you think they should share?
Well, the first thing that they need to do is develop their profile, LinkedIn profile, in a way that displays who they are, that shows who they are exactly, and it should be very specific, particularly about what they've been doing, about their qualifications, one thing, so that the algorithm of LinkedIn, it detects exactly and suggests the exact groups and relevant groups, number one, particularly if they are ESL teachers, TEFL teachers, and TESOL teachers. They need to have these things as the keywords in their LinkedIn profile, number one. And the other thing is I usually find people involving with every kind of stuff they come across, especially if they find motivational speakers, they repost it, they comment on that. In order to be more focused, one needs to be, you can say, very much focused on their own professional area. So they need to post the right material, especially that is about their own domain, and comment on whatever is related to them, and particularly find out the right groups, especially as I did myself. I joined the different groups like ESL, EFL communities, and CELTA and things like that, which I believe somehow are connected with my domain and my professional field. So this is how we can somehow gain some prominence on LinkedIn.
And one of the things I like about the way that you use LinkedIn is that you are obviously looking for opportunities or posts that you see that may well be of very interest to other teachers, and you share those quite frequently, I think, but also it's not that you just share them, you add your own commentary to it as well, and it's quite interesting detail that you add. Do you think that is helpful and useful thing to do? Because most people, I think, when they share things, and most of the time I do this, but I'm starting to think it's not, what you do is a much better way of doing it. Do you think it's helpful or useful to actually write a longer post, use hashtags to extend the reach and stuff when you're sharing that kind of information?
Well, I think it's important in two ways. Number one, when you add your own perspective on something, it helps people realize or recognize you, who you are, how you think about things, and it adds some extra flavor to an existing post, I believe. One thing. And the other thing is it's about your visibility on LinkedIn. When you add something, just simply liking or simply, using different icons or things that we have on LinkedIn, it doesn't really make you or your profile more visible. When you add something, people look at that. Sometimes people comment on that, so it's helpful. It's helpful in boosting your visibility on LinkedIn. So there are different perspectives on doing that.
And I'm guessing that it also, depending on the engagement that you get from people, it also points towards people you can connect with, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? To connect with other people and build your network in that way.
That's true. It does increase engagement level when people see that. It sometimes, somehow makes them say something on that. Sometimes a different point of view. Sometimes people disagree on something. So it does encourage more interaction and engagement.
And what kind of things do you think LinkedIn gives you when you compare it to a more private sort of directed social network like WhatsApp groups, etc.? Do you think they're both as useful, or do you think one is more useful than others, or for different reasons?
Well, both have the WhatsApp has its own pros and cons, and even LinkedIn has its own. LinkedIn is a platform which is specifically designed for academia and people relating education and other professions. So you usually won't find people, non-serious people on LinkedIn. We do have sometimes some of them, but they're automatically they're ignored. And on WhatsApp, it has its own advantages. For example, it's easier to communicate on that, and you don't have to look through different posts, and you don't have to go into the history. So it's easier. WhatsApp is its own advantages. So I can't exactly you can say one is better and the other is not. So they have their own advantages, and you can say cons as well.
And what about other social networks? Do you find yourself using them at all? Facebook, Instagram, and others, or is that something you stay away from?
No, I do use Facebook, but I'm not very active on Instagram and Instagram especially. I am on Twitter as well. Previously Twitter, now X, and Facebook. Especially, I'm quite active on Facebook as well. But I contribute more on LinkedIn. So, but Facebook is also very much helpful, especially most of the webinars and online events that I attend are on Facebook as well.
Right. Wonderful. So, Zafar, I'm going to bring things to a close now. I've really enjoyed talking to you about, we've talked about lots of different things, which is really interesting. And before we finish, is there anything else that you'd like to mention that we haven't yet talked about?
I think most of the teachers are doing the same traditional things, although there's a huge number of teachers, those who are trying to practice new things, new learning. But in my context, I would say in Pakistani context, and especially in the developing countries, we need to move away from the what we say parachute model, where someone drops in with a training manual and just leaves. So we need to do something which relates, which is realistic, and which does concern with the students' level, the students' requirements, their learning needs, their individual preferences. So in my context, I think that's where we lack, and this is also something which most of the teachers, despite having lots of training sessions and despite having so many online certificates, after some time they tend to be reverting to those classical teaching styles. So we need to be conscious of what it means to be the right teacher for the right student.
And what do you think is the best way to go about helping teachers achieve that change and becoming more updated? I'm guessing it's through teacher development, but how do they get started?
The first thing is motivating the teachers, making them feel that they do need some professional development. So to make them realize the need for that teacher development and that professional development, the governments especially need to introduce some really well-structured and organized programs, offering them the necessary facilities, and overcoming all the barriers which they usually have, like having facilities, not having facilities, internet, and not having internet access. Some of the remote areas in some of the countries, usually don't have internet access, and some of them even might not be even familiar with the modern tools and things like that. So the governments need to plan it very well and motivate in different ways, motivate the teachers so that they can feel that need and they can step up for that professional development.
Yeah, great. Okay, Zafar, well, thank you very much for your time. I've very much enjoyed talking to you. And, I hope you enjoy the rest of the day, the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ram. It was really an amazing session with you. Thank you for having me once more. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Need a smarter way to teach? Wish your lessons had more impact? Eduflix.com. Stream educational films for teachers and students in or out of the classroom. Keep students engaged. No ads. No distractions. Try it free for 30 days at eduflix.com/try. Use code TTR. Get 50% off all orders made before June 1st. Eduflix.com.
Hi secondary school teachers, we're Apps for Good, and we give schools like yours free introductory computing courses. Our courses are for everyone, including those who aren't computing teachers, and they're fully equipped with resources mapped to the UK computing curriculums. Independent learning is central to our courses. Your students will develop essential and digital skills by working in teams to create prototype apps. We'll even connect you with industry volunteers to give real-world feedback. Let's empower every young person you teach to shape their future with technology. Speak to us at www.appsforgood.org.
Did you know that every year, half of disadvantaged children who are top attainers at primary school don't go on to achieve top GCSE maths results? At Axiom Maths, we exist to change that. Our fully funded program helps schools nurture young mathematicians through weekly face-to-face maths circles, where pupils tackle challenging and exciting problems outside the national curriculum. With just under £3,000 annual funding, expert training and quality resources, we give schools everything they need to inspire the next generation of mathematical thinkers. Want to make a difference? Visit AxiomMaths.com today and join over 400 schools delivering math circles across the UK.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out! Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order.
So welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the conversation I had with Zafar as much as I did. I found it really interesting to talk to him and learn about what he's doing and his context. So when it comes to the use of AI to support learning, one of the most popular arguments for doing so is because artificial intelligence can help with differentiation. So differentiation in education, that refers to teaching approaches that tailor instruction to meet diverse learning needs, interests, and strengths of individual students. So, of course, adjusting the content and the way that you teach, as well as adjusting the learning environment to support learning to ensure all students have opportunities to engage and learn. Differentiation also includes supporting students who are struggling, of course, those who are on track, those who are excelling, and those who learn in various modalities or have different interests. So really catering for all the students rather than treating the students as a group, looking at them from as individuals, really. So how can artificial intelligence help with differentiation? Well, AI offers significant potential to enhance differentiation. It's particularly well suited for differentiation because it can process vast amounts of data on student learning patterns, preferences, performances, etc. This capacity can enable the creation of personal learning paths for each of the students that respect exactly what their learning journey should be of each individual, really. So in practice, here are some ways that AI can be used to help with differentiation, as suggested by a number of different blog posts and research papers that I've started looking at and that have started to proliferate online. So first of all, creating differentiated materials. So AI is being used a lot by teachers to create materials these days. And teachers often have faced the challenge of creating various resources for individual students. In the past, it's become a lot easier with these Gen AI tools, and they can act as a source of inspiration and generate ideas for these materials. It means the process of actually creating materials or differentiating materials can be a lot quicker and less time consuming. And Gen AI can be prompted to create multiple differentiated activities for a specific topic, or even take existing tasks and generate different versions for different students. It could be longer, shorter, different language levels, etc. There is, of course, this idea of personalizing the learning experiences, and AI systems can identify specific learning needs and provide students with educational experiences tailored to their pace and individual needs. Adaptive learning, powered by AI, can analyze student data, pinpoint strengths and weaknesses, and provide recommendations and resources. You can adjust the curriculum based on individual progress or preferences, and this allows for a more personalized teaching approach and interactive learning experience for each individual student. There are varied explanation. You can vary the explanations and examples. So students learning complex concepts can often benefit from varied examples and explanations, and AI can help you generate multiple explanations from different perspectives. You can turn something that is complicated into a step-by-step approach, or provide simpler summaries for students who may be confused. And AI can quickly produce numerous examples that approach a concept from various angles, can connect abstract ideas to real-life applications, and that can be more relevant or interesting to the students' lives. So you can focus on what the students are interested in, for example. There are ways of offering multiple means of representation. So looking at things like universal design for learning, AI can help teachers provide content in various formats, and prompting AI can generate lists of diverse resources. You can quite quickly get lists of videos, websites, simulations, games, infographics related to topics that can help make things easier to understand. Brainstorming is something you can do with AI. You can use the Gen AI tools to brainstorm alternative and authentic ways of, assessing students, for example. And automated assessment systems can help with grading and provide standardized evaluation criteria. You can also create personalized assessment rubrics and provide guidance aligned with individual needs. Then there's, of course, personalized and instant feedback. AI-driven tools can offer real-time feedback, which is a key factor in language acquisition and learning in general. And this immediate and personalized feedback can help students identify areas for improvement and address misunderstandings or learning gaps. Now, one of the great things about use of Gen AI is that you can tailor content to the interests of a group of students or even individuals, and you can differentiate in such a way to hopefully increase motivation of each of the students based on their diverse interests. For example, you can design lesson hooks that connect to a topic, but actually look at it from a point of view of what the students are particularly interested in. But obviously you have to get to know your students very well first before you can do that. And then facilitating customized practice. AI can be used to generate practice questions, provide targeted feedback for simulated practice and role play. AI can customize the scenarios that you use in class, adapt interactions based on student input, make exercises more personalized. And to effectively use AI for differentiation, you really need to become good at prompt engineering. So this is the idea of what you put into the Gen AI system to actually get the output. You need to think very carefully about how to design that text. So carefully crafting these prompts will allow you as a teacher to generate outputs from AI that support a lot, what you want a lot more. So using structured prompts designed to give students agency and challenge them to evaluate the output is also recommended over unstructured prompts. So you could actually provide something for students and tell them that it has been produced by AI and get them to look at it critically. And that can be a way of promoting critical literacy within the classroom as well. So lots of things you can do. And as for inclusive learning, building on the conversation that I had with Zafar, what about other things that AI can be used for to help with this inclusivity in the classroom? Well, there's potential for enhancing inclusive learning by addressing, again, the diverse student needs. I think this differentiation is the key, really, promoting equitable access to opportunities. And so regardless of their background, abilities, or any other preferences they may have in the way that they learn, the students can fully participate. And it's closely related to this idea of differentiation, which we've just had a talk about. And AI's ability to personalize and adapt the learning experience is the key factor in supporting inclusivity. Now, here are some other suggestions from research and blog posts that I've come across. Personalizing the learning experience, they're capable of identifying specific needs, etc. That's one thing. Providing various explanations and content, you can generate the multiple explanations from different perspectives, which we talked a little bit about, and offering multiple means of representation and accessibility. Then we have, of course, this tailoring to the diverse characteristics and interests. Now, there's also this idea of addressing barriers to access. So AI can assist in this, such as all sorts of limitations or disparities, and decentralizing and collaborating with AI to develop this can be key to it. It can support assessment and feedback, so it can facilitate innovative and adaptive assessment, along with identifying areas for improvement and based on individual needs, and can promote definitely equity in lots of different ways and inclusivity in the classroom. So in summary, AI supports inclusive learning primarily through its ability to personalize education, to differentiate and make content more accessible and varied. And you can use it to save time to be able to address very specific student needs and potentially break down barriers to access and motivate the students. But Having said all of that, although you can do this, there is definitely a lot of caution involved, which I'm sure everyone is aware of, and the potential for using AI should be approached very cautiously, with a strong focus on mitigating any bias and also ensuring equitable access to the tools and the skills needed to use them. There is, of course, also a kind of question about the impact on the environment, which needs to be taken very seriously, I think. And whenever you use AI, I think the idea is that you shouldn't just use whatever output you get. I think this idea of adapting it, the human element, the human touch being in the AI is necessary. And this supervision by you, the teacher, and revising and looking at things critically and starting to check the validity of everything is crucial, I think, to ensuring that these tools can serve as tools to promote a more inclusive educational environment and something that is valuable. So when it comes to Gen AI use in general, I'm sure I'm not the only one who has noticed that AI continues to be the hot topic, and not just when it comes to technology and education, but education in general. And I've been to a conference on Friday and Saturday this week, the Americas Regional Face-to-Face Conference dedicated to assessment of languages, called New Directions Latin America, and it was held in Mexico City. And that was fascinating. Many of the sessions, the plenary and current and other sessions, had AI in the title or touched upon AI. Even if they didn't make AI the focus of it, there were lots of conversations around the conference with people about how they're using how they're using AI with their students, and how the teachers are developing it. That was one of the best things about attending the conference, actually, the kind of conversations I had in the classroom, in the lunch break or the coffee breaks, etc. And examples in the actual conference of the sessions that included AI included one called Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, using AI to help students perfect their speaking skills, using generative AI-based feedback to assess learners' writing, which was a really interesting one as well. Regional insights into diversifying language assessment. Of course, the conference was assessment-oriented, although not all of the sessions were about assessment. Many of them were. Leveraging AI for formative practices in Latin America. And then one that was very provocative, AI, a new era or a false dawn for language testing. All very interesting conversations and debates going on in that area. Now, AI, when it comes to assessment, has been a particularly thorny issue. And I'm going to talk a little bit about, rather than the problematic nature of AI when it comes to assessment, some ways in which AI can help. So, of course, there is this idea of using AI to generate tests and quizzes, and it can help you generate these test quizzes and short answer tests, etc. And you can assign AI the role of the quiz creator, specifying the topic, and very quickly, very easily produce things like you can test students on within a classroom. And it can also generate questions across a series of course topics over time. You can incorporate testing students on new and previously learned concepts, etc. And while AI can generate entire tests or individual tasks, you do need, as I said before, to have very specific prompts and details, in other words, in order to really take advantage of it. And this can potentially take several steps. So I wouldn't expect just to take whatever output you get from the first prompt that you put in. It is worth pursuing and perfecting the prompts and changing it if you don't get what you want. So although you can produce something in a matter of seconds, it's worth spending a little bit more time to actually produce something of much more higher quality, I think. So even if you get the initial output, you should revise it and have a look at it and tweak the prompts so that the what you get to use in class with the students is a lot better than what it's probably going to produce in the first attempt. It's definitely worth doing, even though it takes a little bit more time. AI can also provide rubrics and answer keys to explain things for students, for example. There is, of course, this idea of using AI to automatically grade and provide feedback. And AI can do this, and it can revolutionize the grading process for written assignments and language proficiency tests. I'm not quite sure how I feel about using AI to mark students' writing. There's been a lot of controversy recently in some universities with students complaining that their teachers at the universities are not actually reading and giving feedback to the students' writing. The temptation for doing that, I understand, because a lot of universities with very large classes and lots of students producing writing, there is a temptation to save time and also to be able to use AI to generate very timely, quick and detailed feedback that perhaps a teacher may not have time to do, or to be able to generate the feedback a lot more timely than the teacher may be able to do. So I understand that. But there's something about, I don't know, there's something that sits uncomfortable with me about this idea of, well, if the teacher isn't giving feedback on the writing, then there's no human actually looking at it and responding to it in a way. So I'm not quite sure about that. Perhaps someone can persuade me in some way. If you do want to be a guest on the show and come and talk about that, then I'd love to hear you. I'd love to hear from you. Please come on and talk about this or any other subject that you find interesting. I'm really open to accepting people as guests on the show. So AI can create and refine assessment rubrics. It can help teachers create personalized rubrics for assessment. And this, I think, is a good way of doing it, a good way of using AI. So having custom-made rubric makes grading easier and assessment expectations more transparent for the students. So you can hand out the assessments and you can talk about the grading rubric, etc., and what they're expected to do, and also produce model answers. So you could have a model answer based on a question which you can then discuss with students. Identifying student needs, monitoring progress. Of course, student AI systems can help identify this, as we talked before, and enhancing timelines and efficiency when it comes to constructing tests, creating answer keys, writing explanations, providing feedback. Although perhaps multiple choice tests, that's a lot easier, and ensuring the questions match expectations, which all of this takes a significant time and effort to do without AI. So AI can help automate some of these tasks and allow instructors to spend less time developing materials and more time focusing on the students. If this is how you use AI, I think that's always a good thing. So if you are able to use AI to be able to give the students more personal time and look at what it's done, I think this is fine. It can free up valuable time to focus on other aspects of teaching and allow for quicker and more personalized feedback. And from a school or organization point of view, of course, automation can make assessment a lot more cost efficient if that's what you're looking at, your viewpoint. Now, it's, I think, very important to note that while AI offers significant potential, I think this idea of having the human involved, human supervision, is necessary. Teachers really need to evaluate the output for relevance, for factual correctness, detailed variety. And again, as I mentioned, the idea of even though you can use it very easily and very quickly, you should think about the cost to the environment every time you use something like that. There is a hidden cost, if you like, that you should be aware about. The other thing, of course, is AI output can be wrong, contain biases, this idea of hallucination, and it doesn't always provide effective feedback, as it doesn't know the individual students, which you should know as a teacher, or understand their nuances. And you therefore must critically evaluate any generated content, AI generated content, for bias and for to see if it's if it's too bland and generic. Then you need to be able to personalize that for the actual students you got. Otherwise, this idea of using AI to differentiate and personalize learning doesn't really work if it's just coming out without any understanding or any knowledge of the actual students that you're dealing with. So that defeats the purpose, really. Now, generative AI has seen rapid development and widespread adoption over the last year in particular. By all accounts, it has now significantly impacted education to such an extent that there are a few teachers, I think, who are not being affected by it. Even if there are teachers out there, you may be one of them, who are not actually using AI, you can pretty much guess, I think, that your students are, to a certain extent. So it is really introducing new capabilities and reshaping teaching and learning practices. How has it changed over the last year? Well, and how are teachers and learners using it? So here are some thoughts. The changes in generative AI include a lot more very tailor-made, specifically aimed at teachers apps. I think this is something that we've seen. The other thing is that the increased capability of Gen AI, the large language models that are coming out now, are capable of generating much more human-like texts, for example. And this idea of using an automatic tool to actually test whether something was being written by AI, I think I wouldn't go there. It's become less and less valuable or effective to do that. And you might well find that it detects human written language and calls it AI, which could cause lots of problems for you and for the students and cause lots of distress. There are new applications, as I said, aimed at teachers, and there are also applications such as Sora, which enables the creation of high quality video content, and that's becoming more and more becoming much better. And this expands on the type of content Gen AI can generate. AI has become widespread. It's become a lot more accessible and popular. There has been an increased focus because of this on prompt engineering. So this idea of really tailoring what you write, the input, to get the output you get, has become a lot more interesting. From a language teacher's point of view, this is a really interesting focus if you're teaching students, to be able to look at helping them with the language that they use to get the prompts that they need. So that's a really interesting area, I think. There's been a shift in the focus of research. So there are many more studies are now focused on AI for regulation and pedagogy, and listening has become one of the language skills that AI is being used to support a lot more than it was in the past. So this reflects the evolving capabilities and applications being explored by researchers. How have teachers been using Gen AI? Well, a lot of teachers that I talk to or have heard about are leveraging Gen AI to enhance efficiency, to personalize instruction, as I mentioned before, and also just to save time. So generating content and materials, automating tasks, and increasing efficiency, doing a lot of admin work. For example, creating templates of emails to send to parents if you're teaching young learners is one way that teachers are using Gen AI. Personalizing and differentiating instruction, of course, creating and refining assessments, including the marking, as I mentioned before, supporting this idea of the diversity of learning needs is another area where it is being used, and facilitating engagement and creativity. So it's pretty much redefining where teachers are using it, is redefining the kind of role that a teacher has. It's becoming used as an assistant, I think, is the most interesting area. And students are using GenAI, of course, to receive, apart from the students who are cheating with GenAI, we won't go there. They're using GenAI to receive feedback, to get personalized practice. You can, including speaking and listening practice, you can use it as a conversational partner in language learning, for example, which is really interesting. They also use it to generate content. You can use it as a personal tutor or an assistant, and it can enhance engagement to make the learning more meaningful and fun, and more tailor-made towards the interests of the students if you're using it as a conversational partner, for example, in language learning. And students are also using it to develop their skills and knowledge, although there's this danger because of the hallucination about the developing of knowledge, definitely. So there's a very quick overview. Would you like to be a guest or a host on the show? The best way of doing this is by filling out the form at www.ttradio.org, and there's a contact form there. And you can get in touch with me through there and appear on the show as a guest we can talk about any subject that is relevant to teaching and learning, or you can appear on one of the other show hosts' shows as well. So that is the end of today's Sunday lunch show. Many thanks to my special guest, Safar Siddique, and to all of you who have joined me live, and also, of course, to all of you who are listening back to the recordings. Thank you for joining me, for joining us, and I hope you will join me again next week at the same time. Bye for now.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.